Hello, welcome. We'll let
Uh,
people kind of filter in for a sec.
yeah, there's Kendra.
Hey, amazing. Hello, hello. We're letting people filter in, but we have a good list going so far.
Wonderful. Perfect.
All right. I feel like this is a solid group. Do we want to maybe kick off with introductions, all of that, but also maybe to preface, this is our just, student only current students panel. So we don't have admission staff here. It's just intended to be ask us anything, open season on whatever you're curious about. So feel free to put questions in the Q&A, I believe, and we can get to anything as they come. But we are happy to kind of give an overview. I can start off. My name is Kaya. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a second year MPH student in the 65 track, studying health and social behavior with a concentration in maternal and child health. My background is primarily in some of the hard sciences, molecular bio, things like that. And then I worked down in DC for a few years doing global development work, and primarily shifted to Chan and went and got my MPH in the hopes of focusing on social determinants of health. And I'm now kind of really honing in on maternal outcomes and how knowledge translation works in those kind of reproductive health spaces. So that is a little bit on me. Anybody else want to go?
I can go. Hey everyone, my name is Kendra. I am a second year MPH 65, also in social and behavioral sciences, with a concentration in humanitarian studies. And prior to Chan, I worked in hospital administration, as well as some COVID testing programming. And during my time here, I am focusing on humanitarian, kind of humanitarian health and refugee health. And yeah, I think that's all for now.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. My name is Jericho. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a second year MPH student in the 65 program, concentrating in health policy. My background's primarily in like COVID response. So I worked in COVID response for the city of Baltimore for 2 years prior to coming to Chan. But throughout undergrad, I spent a lot of time on and around Capitol Hill doing sorry, I keep getting emails. Doing federal advocacy and just doing some like legislative internship work on there. So wanted to marry like my like health background in undergrad with policy. So I chose to go to graduate school and now I'm here. I developed an interest in like state policy. So post grad, I'm hoping to work like within the Medicaid space. So yeah, it's a little bit about us. Is there anything we can answer for you all, or just I don't know if there's anything in the Q&A yet, so feel free to drop anything.
Oh yeah, we have someone asking, as someone who did a background in wet lab biology, so kind of the neuro math bio side, how can I highlight my passion and qualifications for public health and biostats in your essay? I think this varies person to person, and I think also our caveat is that we can offer from like our student perspective. We don't have any insight onto like the admissions side of things, so that's the broad overview. But I think what, as someone who also kind of came from that wet lab bio environment, and I was really really strongly STEM in undergrad, part of the I just figured out the connections of the journey of my interest into public health. So for me, that was, figuring out the more invisible forces that were acting underneath molecular bio or acting underneath science that were actually having a greater effect on people's health and people's well-being than the literal virus or the literal cellular process that we're talking about. And so I just kind of connected those, but really finding ways that it's personal to you, or finding ways that it's hitting on something that you're passionate about or that you really care about. I think like just being able to show genuine interest and whatever your unique pathway is a great way to start that. But anybody else got anything?
No, yeah, I would agree with what you said, Kaya, and not so much. I don't have the wet lab experience, but just for essays in general, and just in my opinion, I think really thinking about why you want to be here and what you're going to do with that. What you've done is of course important, but I think your vision is also important too. That's kind of some advice I was given, which I really appreciated. I can jump and talk a bit about the concentration, because this is a question I had and was really confused about. So just to clarify, there's like departments you would apply for. So SBS, policy, health management, and then concentrations you can choose at any time. I did do it before because I was confused about the process, but you don't have to. It can very much be when you are at the school, and most concentrations are all you will hear about probably in your first few weeks, whether it's at the student fair or through emails. A lot of them live within different departments, and so I had known that they had a humanitarian concentration here and knew that that was in my interests, and that one specifically actually doesn't live right under the public health school. It's through the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative, which is Harvard wide, but got linked through the public health school to them. And it was just a form to fill out. And then, so you can do it at any time, but each concentration has requirements. So you wouldn't want to do it at the end and realize you haven't taken any of the classes. So typically it's, I think maybe 4 to 5 classes. It probably varies per concentration. Mine is 4 additional classes that are all in the global health track, and then a practicum that is related to humanitarian. And I don't know, I know Kaya, you're maternal and child health. I don't know if anyone else had anything to add on concentrations.
Yeah, I think your point at the beginning was a really good one, because there's that weird distinction between your track and your concentration. The track is the thing that you are definitely in, and you are pretty much locked in based on your application. There might have been some instance where someone's able to switch, but really what you apply to in your application when it comes to health and social behavior, health policy, health management, at least for the MPH, those are the ones that you're really in. The concentration, like Kendra said, you can choose that at any time, and you do not have to do one. You can choose to decide to do one halfway through. You can decide not to do one halfway through. Basically, the reporting structure is that near the end of your degree, you've been kind of usually assessing and self-planning the classes that you need to take, because there's usually flexibility. And then you submit something to the concentration department that says, hey, I took all these requirements, I'm good to concentrate. So that's extremely flexible. And I found that for maternal child health as well. I tried taking some classes and just seeing what the options were and felt like, and then decided later on, but you're never married to it at any point in time.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. I do not technically have a concentration. I was one of those people who, I think I came into graduate school thinking or wanting to learn as much as I can about a whole bunch of different topics. So I thought about pursuing a concentration, but I don't think my education at Chan has been hindered by the fact that I'm not in a concentration. I think that has allowed me or given me the flexibility to take a bunch of other classes that, I might not necessarily be like totally comfortable or familiar with. So I've been able to like expand my horizons and like step out of my comfort zone, taking a bunch of different classes. But yeah, like you don't have to go into concentration. The concentrations here are great. Um, but if you don't want to, you don't have to.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna I'm jumping down a bit, but just on the concentration. I see someone, Lynn asked, is epidemiology a concentration or a track? And that's a good question too. Or just of epidemiology is a um, department. So you can be getting your master's of science in epi. But I also just want to make the point that there's there's a lot of flexibility in, no matter, like, I'm an SBS student, I'm taking several management classes right now. I've taken a lot of global health classes. So there's a lot, like, you do have to do your core and of course like the classes for your department. But then you do have the opportunity to take classes across different departments and different schools, which we'll get to. I think I saw a question about cross registration. And so, but yeah, epi itself is a department, and there's different. I know the Masters of Science off my head. There's PhDs in epi, but yeah, I'll stop there. I'm not the epi expert, but in general, it's a department and not one of these concentrations we're talking about.
I think isn't there an MPH like track in epi? It's just like
I believe this is something where I think the best thing to do is direct people to like the website and the overview, because that's definitely like your best and most complete and accurate sources of information for all of the different breakdowns of the MPH tracks that you could do. That also varies based on whether you're doing the accelerated program or the year and a half program. The accelerated program for the MPH has slightly more departments that you have the option of specializing in. And for MS, all of us are MPH. So I think I will leave that to the experts in the admissions office to like know exactly all of the details and the nitty gritty.
yeah, and
And
I do see a question here about the PhD, and I guess that's another scenario in which none of us really have too much knowledge into that. So I think um, reach out to the admissions office. I also think that the PhD program at Chan is technically under under GSAS, which is like the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. Um, so feel free to reach out to the admissions offices of both schools or departments um, to get the most accurate information.
seconded for sure. And someone was asking about on-campus culture at Chan. So any things that we love about being at Chan or being in the Boston area. I think overall, from my perspective, I really loved the cohort sizes and kind of the subdivision of cohort sizes, because Chan is a larger school once you factor in all of the MS students, PhD, MPH, everything like that. But the ways that it's subdivided means that you have a lot of consistent face time with a smaller subset of people. So within my and Kendra's department, SBS, we see the other 30 students that are in our exact track and department pretty often. And then we see kind of a slightly broader subset within our general department. And all of the interdepartmental MPH folks on the same 65 credit track also have like a ton of overlap. So I just really liked the ability to like create connections with people in a smaller environment, and have that kind of scale up to the bigger ecosystem.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think the way it's structured in your first year, it's really nice because you're taking a lot of your core classes. And so Kaya and I think in our cohort had a lot of our classes together. And so we were able to really get to know orientation. You see a lot of faces. And then then once you're in kind of these core classes, which will be between, speaking from an MPH perspective, MPH core and your department core classes that you have to take, it's really nice that that's how it starts. And then as you go through your program, you'll have some more room to take more electives, and that you will mix likely with more different departments, but it's nice as far as the consistency, like Kaya was mentioning. So that is one of my favorite things as well.
Yeah, I've loved being at Chan. I love the culture at Chan. Echoing the sentiment about orientation, it's just like this 1 week of constantly meeting people, and it feels like there aren't like you have no time to breathe because everyone's just like talking and like wants to meet you. It's kind of overwhelming, but I think that's like such a great experience just because everyone at Chan is so passionate about public health. That's super cool to hear about everyone's experiences. That's that. And then the other thing is like our cafeteria itself is such like a hub for meeting people. We all have like these round tables, and it's like the cafeteria is a great place to meet people and see friends from like other departments and mingle. So I don't think there's anyone who's like standoffish at Chan. Everyone's genuinely like open to meeting one another. And I've really enjoyed that. Because like I've like made pretty solid friends at Chan, and I think that like that's the same. Like the same goes for a lot of people at the school.
Agreed. Yeah. I love just being able to walk into Kresge and I know I'll probably see somebody that I know slash a good solid subset. It's nice. It's a good time.
Yeah, also, yeah, I'll add two things, like the Kresge area, and then when it's nice out, and like today it's gonna be like 80 degrees here, but there's like a courtyard by the med school, and it's just there's a lot of great areas, and you can just always find people and sit down for lunch and everything like that, which is nice. And also there's just a lot going on. I say that you could probably find an event, a speaker, something, get free pizza most days of the week here. There's just a lot of events going on, and a lot of them are really interesting. And then that's just in Chan. If you go Harvard wide, then you could probably find some sort of event every night of the week. So I think that's been really cool to tap into, especially as I've like honed in on specific interests and then learn about the different departments through the Harvard network and things like that. So there always seems to just be something going on. Yeah. I'm looking at the next question of meaningful relationships with faculty, and then choosing Chan. I can start that. I have created some great relationships with faculty. One way, I do research with a faculty member through the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative, and I joined that about a month or two into being a student here. And I think I may have also seen a question around research. There are a lot of ways to get involved in research here, one of which is just emailing professors. You hear a lot in the first few weeks. I know for SBS, they like all the professors stood up and shared introduced themselves and shared their focus of research, and many said email me if you're interested. But also there's a lot of postings online that you can find on our career website. So there's just a lot of ways, and I have a lot of friends that are involved in research, and I find it quite accessible. And I was not in the research sector prior, so I was a little like, can I do research when I'm a grad student? And I'm on a project that looks at the relationship between conflict and climate in a particular island in the Philippines, which is nothing I had done prior, and it's been incredible and has like targeted my interest in climate change. And through that relationship, through that opportunity, I built a really strong relationship with a professor there. And then also just like professors tend to be really open. I was on an office hours last night And not to say I don't know these professors well, it's our first weeks of new classes, but they're just there twice a week, every week, and like just wanted to chat. Not even like we don't have a lot of content yet, so I didn't really have questions, but it's a disaster preparedness class, so very much aligns with my interests, and we just had like an awesome conversation. And I find that there's a lot of opportunity to build those relationships. But I see a lot of nodding from Kaya and Jerica, so I'm gonna let them because I'm sure they have something to add here.
Yeah, I feel like on my end, the only thing that I would add is just a +1 to faculty are really approachable and they're really open if you come to them and you say, hey, I'm interested in your work. They will 9 times out of 10 be like, oh, great, I have these projects going on. Are you interested in any of them? Or like, we have a full lab right now, but like something's starting in about 6 months. Do you want to like talk then? And I think overall, there's just like an immediate openness to it.
Yeah, I will third that. I think also when you come into Chan, I think it's the registrar that does this, but you're assigned like a faculty advisor with whom you can build like a strong relationship. Like, and they are very intentional about, I don't know about you two, but like for me, the faculty they assigned me to is someone who's like work and career trajectory aligned like very well with what I stated in my personal statement. So it's like super cool that you have someone like right off the bat to reach out to and like build a connection with. And I ended up being the teaching fellow for that professor or that faculty member like the following year. So I really like just stuck with him. And I think I have built that meaningful connection with him. But the second part of this question by Catherine asks, compared to other programs, what made you choose Chan? That's a really good question. I was a person who I think I based my decision based off of vibes. And I know that's like a terrible answer, but but I think when speaking to the students at Chan, they just seemed the most like at peace with their decision. I spoke to a faculty member before deciding to enroll at Chan, and I told her my situation. She was like, Jericho, you don't have to come here, like all these other schools are great. Like you have to find the program that's like the right fit for you. Um, and I think I just really appreciated that faculty member's candor. Uh, and like I could tell that it was sincere. So I think I'll echo the same thing. Like I think Chandler's just the right fit for me because like the city location, the faculty members, the students. I also was 2 years out of undergrad, and I really liked the 2-year work requirement in between undergrad and graduate school here because everyone has some sort of experience and something that they can speak to. So I think all of that like led me to choose Chan. But again, like all the public health schools are great. Like I don't think you can make a wrong decision. So you just have to find the right one for you.
I had a really, really similar experience where I think one of the things that initially won me over was just the student culture and the fact that students really seem to enjoy being there. And that the faculty, when I was talking to them as a prospective student, were both warm and open, but also transparent and felt like they had people's best interests in mind, or they were not necessarily pushing Chan just for the sake of oh, everyone should come here. We want to like raise our enrollment numbers. They were very, very intentional about, you should assess the factors that you want to prioritize most in a school, and you should go to the place that will give you the best combination of that factors. And like, if that's us, great. If that's not us, also great. You're going to get a fantastic education wherever you go. And I definitely I echo that to anybody who's in the application process because it was a really, really just thoughtful and helpful perspective too.
I third all that. I lived in Boston prior, and so I actually was in the healthcare space, and I had had known people that had done the program, so I had felt like I had learned a lot from them. And then also I just would encourage going through the process, like talking to students, current students was so insightful for me. Just hearing, it's helpful to talk to admissions as well, but just talking to students and hearing about their experience. And then and on Jericho's note, the work experience was something that really attracted me to Harvard, just knowing that people were coming from a lot of different backgrounds, but in the public health sector. I think a lot of the similar things, and then just some of the specific interest areas. I looked a lot at what research was happening at the schools and really tried to think about what I want to get involved in, and is that available at the schools I was looking at.
And then, so we have a question on how many years of work experience do we all have during the application process? How can you strengthen your application if you don't have a lot of leadership experience to go off of? I came into the program with 3 years of work experience. I think Jericho said he had 2. Kendra, where were you at?
5.
Nice. So it really varies. The minimum is 2, which shows up really well in the cohort and in the people that you're interacting with. It's really nice that everyone has kind of that real work experience. So that's a minimum requirement for the MPH. It is not the case for the MS. I believe you can go straight through, or there's not that same level of years of work. And how can you strengthen your application if you don't have a lot of leadership experience to go off of? I think my understanding is that Shan looks at a lot of different things, and it is not like very specifically, are you a leader or not? I think it's like, what are you interested in within this field? How do you want to contribute to it? And what are the ways that you would want to take advantage of the resources at Chan? So if that means that, you haven't gotten as many opportunities to flex into that as you want to, but you want to try out we have like a public health leadership lab. We have a maternal child health leadership lab. There's a bunch of different opportunities here. If there are elements that you want to take advantage of, I would say just tell them that and talk about the ways that you want to keep improving, because everyone starts somewhere and is trying to get somewhere. No one's just like here fully formed and a perfect person or anything like that.
I I think that was very, very well said. And I would just emphasize, do not hesitate it's kind of like when people say, if you don't meet all the requirements for a job, I mean, you do need to have the 2 years if you're applying to MPH, but like I went out of the public health space for a couple years in my 5 years of experience. And I was like very concerned that was going to hurt my applications. But it's really about the way you present what you've done, and the way you present it and your story and what you're looking ahead as I view it. And don't undersell yourself or hesitate to not apply, because of certain, if you don't have exactly what you think, because like Kaya said, there's so much opportunity here. And I think I had not had a ton of like formal leadership experience prior to this program, and was in the public health leadership lab and in leadership classes. So I really think of it as a stepping stone in my career path, and you do not have to have that perfect application.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. I'll also just add, like, there are a lot of opportunities here to, grow and develop your leadership skills. But then again, like, it's okay if you're not like a total leader, if you're not like completely comfortable with that. Because it might be a little tiring if it's just like 200 people full of like leaders. I think there's a lot of value in like diversity within teams. So yeah, if you definitely want to like highlight like other strengths that you have, I think that might be like a good way to approach that. But yeah, I don't think that's like necessarily like a hindrance or something that like they'll dock points off of. Not that it's like a point system, but yeah. Okay, I do see a question here about the health policy track in the MPH. I want to know if health policy is designed only for United States healthcare system or if it can be used for any country around the world. The health policy track is very US centric, so I'll just say that right off the bat. If you're interested in like global like health policy, I would recommend looking into like the global health track. But even if you do have that interest in policy, you can still take classes in like the policy department. You're not married to a track here. I think there's I've spoken to a few students about this, that you when you like put your MPH on a resume, you don't necessarily have to put your track, you know. Once you have an MPH, I feel like it can be applied broadly. And you can kind of you definitely have to hit like the requirements within your specific track here. But other than that, like you can explore any other like departments or tracks within the Chan School or across Harvard. Um, so yeah, the health policy program at Chan is like very focused on US, but we do have a lot of international students in the track as well. And I think they've enjoyed it. Um,
Um, I can answer the one about kind of coming. Someone said I went to a large state school. I'm a bit conscious about background applying to renowned Ivy like Harvard. I'll just talk a bit about because I went to a small school that like, yeah, and not an Ivy, and I think I'll just talk a bit about like imposter syndrome. Um, it's talked a lot about here, which I really appreciated. In orientation, I think there was a whole session about it, and I definitely felt that, and like just felt weird saying I go to Harvard and things like that, and um like don't feel weird about it. Like everyone here deserves to be here. Everyone, and everyone is smart and great and are here for a reason, and I just think that I think it's addressed and it's talked about, which I appreciate. And I like felt that a lot, and but you kind of all go through it together, and yeah, I don't know, you just wanted to like address that because it's definitely a valid and real thing that I think most people feel here.
Yeah, it's definitely valid. I went to a large state school, and I will say we need more people from state schools. Please come, please apply. I definitely felt that like a little like there is a little bit of a like an adjustment period for sure because coming to an environment where like you feel like you're getting lost in the sauce a lot, with like competing for like resources or time with faculty members, like with like thousands of students. It's kind of hard, but then here like everyone is so uh like open and like you can form those meaningful connections with other students and faculty members, uh and like faculty members who are at the top of their fields. So I think that's a very valid sentiment and a lot of people experience that. But again, as Kendra said, like everyone deserves to be here. Everyone here is so smart, and like it doesn't matter that you come from a state school. No one will like scoff at you for that. Everyone's like been so welcoming and everyone loves to hear about like the experiences of the state school kids because like it's a lot different from like Harvard. I love talking about like the tailgates and like the social life in like undergrad, which is a little bit different from what Harvard has. But it's all good. Please come. We need more representation.
Yeah, and it's also just having a broader range of different perspectives and experiences, like both Jericho and Kendra have talked about. Like that's really, really important. And it's important for all fields, but especially within public health. One of the things that we bump up to most often is just who's in the room and what backgrounds do they have, because the more that you just have someone of people of single backgrounds and it's all the same and it's all really homogenous, the worse that work is going to be. And so coming to it, you are kind of including different perspectives to a certain degree that like just have different outcomes that can bring different things to the table too. I also noticed a question about cross-registration, asking, do people actually cross-register course in other schools? The answer is definitely yes. I'm taking 2.5 cross-registered courses right now. One at the Graduate School of Education, 2 at the Harvard Kennedy School of Public Policy. And people have been all over the place. They've been at Harvard Business School, MIT, at the Ed School in Kennedy, and some maybe design school as well. But I really strongly recommend it. It's been fantastic. Every grad school has different kind of teaching structures, different approaches, things like that. And it's a really, really good way to broaden your horizons academically and also network wise too, and just shake it up a little bit. So I think it's really common and it's really highly recommended.
Oh yeah, I'll second that. I took a class at the School of Education last in the spring on data visualization, and it was great, and also a great way to meet people in the ed school and hear about their tracks and just hear from students that are not just in the public health school. And I also took a class here at the public health school, but it was co-taught with a Tufts professor, and people were Tufts, MIT, Harvard, and a few other Harvard schools, and it was just such a cool experience, and I've stayed in contact with a lot of those students. So yeah, I would highly recommend cross-registering.
Yeah, I've also cross-registered quite a bit. I've done so at the Kennedy School, and this semester I'm taking a class at the Divinity School, which is just out of pure curiosity. I think the Harvard community is such an intellectually rich community, that like I would totally recommend cross-registering to everyone just so you can have like a breadth of like different experiences and perspectives from people across the Harvard system, because everyone here is so smart, and like I love hearing about what people like. Everyone has a thing here, and I love hearing about people's things, and their passions and like their goals and aspirations. And like I don't think, well, I mean, you can get that at Chan, but it's very like public health focused there. So it's good to kind of branch out a little bit and see what the world is outside of public health, because I think public health does intersect with a lot of different things. I think public health is everything. So just being able to connect with people from different fields and backgrounds, and is great. And you can definitely do that through cross-registering.
And also to add on, I saw a question later down for talking about for people that are trying to cross-register, is there transportation provided by Harvard for students? That answer is yes, there is a free shuttle that goes between the Longwood Medical Campus, which is where School of Public Health is, and the main central campus. So that will get you to the School of Education, Kennedy. Most of the grad schools are in and around that Cambridge area. So that goes pretty consistently. It still takes a little bit. So there is a little bit of scheduling finagling that you end up having to do. It's not like insanely close, but you have pretty good options there. And there's also kind of the public transit system that Harvard subsidizes, basically a 50% discount on for any kind of bus pass or unlimited transit pass within the Boston MBTA for large.
So there's a question here about personal statements, and do you have to outline the exact work areas of interest that you want to pursue? And again, this is just from our perspective, not an admissions perspective, because I'm not sure what goes into the review of those. But I think I had gotten the advice to think about, have a vision of what you want to be doing in your areas of interest, but I will say it can change, because when I was applying, I was like, I don't know, I think I want to do this, but I'm going to school to explore it more. So you don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but you do want to be clear about your interests, and in the moment, I think that's how I always say, like, what do you want to, like, what are your interests now and why are you pursuing school now? But you're not locking yourself in forever to that. So I do think it's good to highlight that, but that's just from my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think seconding that. It's like, talk about what gets you up in the morning or what you feel really strongly about. And that may change. That very well may change. That or evolve or something. No one's going to come back to you at the end of your MPH being like, hey, did you actually focus on this specific thing that you talked about in your application? Everyone has a different trajectory, and just talk from the place that you're at and go from there.
And I just want to add, I think also just like put your passion in there, because I think I could probably, anyone I talk to here has something in public health that makes them light up. And I think that's what's really cool and really fun about this school, because it's fun to talk about the things that I nerd out on around public health. And so I don't know, I just wrote about what I was passionate about, and that actually has pivoted a bit here. But I do think, like, don't shy away from sharing your passions that are related to public health.
Yeah. Yeah, you both covered it very well. I'd see some questions about like day-to-day responsibilities or opportunities, or what our day-to-day lives here look like. It varies, to be honest. I don't know. I don't really know what my day-to-day looks like. It really changes quite a lot. I feel like there's so many like different events and stuff. I dedicate not too many hours to schoolwork just because I don't think I'm taking too many courses personally. But I do set aside at least like 2 hours maybe a day working on assignments, like formally just like sitting down. But yeah, I don't know if you do have any better insights into what your days
Because like I have immediate amnesia.
No, literally, I'm like, I go to class and
Honestly.
I sit in the library for a couple hours. I go home, I watch TV with my roommate sometimes, and then go to sleep. I will say, I was surprised. This is so different from undergrad. Most people here get 8 hours of sleep a day. Like people here, graduate school is so different. People prioritize their sleep. So everyone here like functions like an adult essentially and like gets 8 hours. But yeah.
I will say it is also something that you definitely have to prioritize though. It can very easily creep in if you're not careful. And I think that happens a lot for students who are in the first semester, in the first month or two. You're kind of drinking from a fire hose and you're meeting a ton of new people. There's a ton of just different things going on. And so even having worked out in the world for a couple of years, I kind of had that mental inclination of like, oh, I should always be doing things, or like there's always more to potentially do or see or engage with. And it took a little bit to kind of dial that back and to remember how to prioritize that kind of balance that I really wanted. But overall, in terms of like the day to day, it varies based on your classes and your extracurricular and part-time work as well. In terms of like from my days right now, I have, based on the quarter, it'll be either maybe a class or two a day, and a lot of the rest of the day will either be going between campuses if I'm cross-registering, taking meetings for my part-time work, which I'm doing about 12 to 15 hours a week right now, and just socializing and doing extra side work and things like that. So it varies a lot based on just your schedule preference, but it's not like you're in classes 9 to 5 kind of thing. Sometimes people end up with that in some sense, but it usually is kind of by design, or if there's a certain set of classes that they're really bent on taking.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a lot on preference. Like some people just want to be on campus, maybe twice a week, so they put all their classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I personally am on campus Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now, but just for the mornings, and then I choose to work like a full day on Tuesday, Thursday for my part-time job. And that just works for me to just like separate it like that. But I do, and also I think just like for me throughout my year and a half here, my priorities have shifted slightly. So where time goes, whether it's, I think I started and I was like all classes, and then I started a job, and now I'm starting the job hunt as it gets closer to the end. So like more energy is going there. So I think everyone, has different priorities, and that is totally fine. We're all adults here, and it's just like, and I think, yeah, so it's, you have, you have, you have the ability to kind of choose the way your schedule is going to look like. But I do think there's enough time to, a lot of people will have part-time roles or different things going on. And I think a lot of people find the balance between part-time work, school, social, things like that. I will just quickly answer. I'm just looking at, how do you like living in or near Cambridge? And so I think this was mentioned. We're in the Longwood area, which is where the hospitals are, and that's in Boston. And so I know Kaya mentioned there's a shuttle that goes between here and Cambridge. And so I would say there's a lot of different areas. I actually do live in Cambridge. But it doesn't take me long to get here for where I live. But then a lot of other people will live in neighborhoods a little closer on the Boston side. So there's a lot of different options, and then a couple school affiliated buildings. But it is fun to, yeah, I know we've mentioned this, but just take advantage of events and things going on at the main campus in Cambridge as well, in addition to here.
Yeah, I also live in Cambridge. I like it. It takes me like 20 minutes to get to school. I want to say from the shuttle that we mentioned earlier. But last year I lived in Harvard housing, so the building specifically for Harvard Chan students. It's called Shattuck International House. So if you're interested in like finding housing, securing housing through Harvard, through Chan, I'd look into that. It was a great place to live. It didn't feel like a dorm. It's all apartment styles. But it's a great place to find community for sure. Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, there's a question about practicums. So the practicum is kind of like our summer internship, our applied product experience. I believe that's what it technically is. So Madeline asked, could you all talk about your practicum experience or the process to find that right practicum experience for you? So for me, I worked in like healthcare consulting over the summer in Washington, D.C. And the process to find that was relatively easy. There are a lot of like recruiters or opportunities for like opportunities and firms or companies to come in to Chan and speak to students. The career center here is very helpful. They have plenty of resources and will help you through like interviewing, writing resumes, cover letters. And then I think we have like a Career Connect database where they post like listings and postings of opportunities. But yeah, Kaya or Kendra, any insights on your experiences?
Yeah, mine was this actually I think ties into someone else's question about internships or also part-time work. I found mine through the Maternal Child Health Leadership Lab. I was connected with an organization that I was really interested in called Ariadne Labs, and started working with them in spring of last year, basically to do a more concentrated project. And then I liked the team so much that I opted to stay on to do my practicum with them in the summer. And I opted to continue working part-time with them this fall. So that when it comes to giving extra time to internships, to outside of work, school things, I kind of chose to ramp up. I didn't do anything the first semester, and then I was at about 11-ish, maybe 11 to 12 hours a week. in spring semester, and I'm now at around 13 to 15, really varies. But I think the key thing there is building in flexibility for yourself and scaling it up and not just diving in, because each person's productivity or work structure or level of kind of juggling preference is going to vary a lot. So I would say go easy on yourself at first and then ramp it up if you're able to and if you want to.
Yeah, and for my practicum experience, I actually developed a research project in a class, and then was connected with an organization in Greece that was working in a refugee camp, and I was introduced to them at the beginning of this class, and in the class had to create a humanitarian research project. So I kind of combined the two, hoping that this introduction would turn into something, and it did. And I was able to actually bring in another peer in our SBS cohort, which just meant, I think another question was like, what do you get out of the most of the program? Like friendship, knowledge, network. I would say all three. But in this example, this was a very close friend of mine, and I knew we had both similar interests in refugee health. And so I had reached out and I said they're welcoming to bring another student with me for this practicum if you want to join. And it was a really great experience. And so but yeah, I did 7 weeks in working with a medical organization that provided pharmacy services and other clinics in a specific camp. But yeah, and it was great because I had asked the professor to kind of mentor us because I hadn't done something like this. It was a qualitative evaluation project. And so this professor in the global health department was willing to kind of take us under and answer any questions we had while we were in the field. And I just want to add for the friends network question. I think like I'll speak for myself. I've made great friendships here. And also like your friends and even just like the people in your classes, like someone said, everyone's friendly and approachable. Like everyone keeps telling us, and I believe it, like they will be our networks moving forward. And I think I would be comfortable messaging anyone that I've seen on this campus. And so, of course, you get knowledge from your classes, from your experiences, but I do think the network and the friendships is really significant here as well, and will go beyond the time of just being here.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of great questions that have been submitted, so we'll try to hit as many as we can within the time range. But there's a couple kind of overlapping, just like why did you choose the MPH? Maybe what's the difference between MPH MS? What are the pros of it? Things like that. And overall, I think I just wanted more practical and theoretical experience on the structures of public health practice. So that's why I chose SBS specifically. They do a lot of community health programming work, and understanding how cities and municipalities and states and governments structure programming and structure that type of thing. And I also just wanted to build up my quantitative skills and really take the advantage of all of the professors that we have and all of the kind of hard skills. I think going in with a set of, I want to build these skills specifically, or finding that along the way and kind of keeping that in your mind is really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I chose the MPH over the MS personally because I wasn't a person who was like very research heavy. And I wanted to gain more practical skills and knowledge in terms of like my specific track, which was health policy. Um, like similar to Kaya, I just needed to build like a better foundation in terms of health policy. So I think the MPH was great for me. I did get a question during during an interview for like my practicum, like recruitment process. They were like, why didn't you pursue like a master of public policy instead of like a master of public health? And I think it's just because like my entire focus was on health. I think everyone at the public health school genuinely loves talking about public health and improving the lives and health of people. So I think it's a great place to do that, regardless of like whether you're in the MPH or MS.
For the sake of time, I'll just third all of that and we can move on to the next. um
Um, Sorry, I feel like we're all looking at the questions. You're all such
yeah.
great questions.
There's a lot of very good questions. I think so. Any generalized, any PhD type questions, I would say those are best going to a PhD specific program. That's a little bit outside of our purview, so I will note that for the folks that are curious about PhD wise. I think potentially anything that we wish we had known earlier about our experience at Chan is maybe a good one to touch on before we start wrapping up. I think I wish I had known or maybe taken a more brave step into just trying different things. Because I think when you go into school, I kind of had a preconception of I need to already be at least a baseline level of like exposed to something or reasonably good at something to try it out or to take classes in it. And it took me a quarter or two to get past that, to say like, if I'm interested in something, I just want to try taking the class and gaining those skills, because if you have to start somewhere. And the professors and the classes were really, really supportive. So overall, I think that was a good learning process for me of just like jump in, try it out.
Yeah, I think about this a lot now that it's like coming on the final months of just like there's so much opportunity here. And yeah, like I am found all these classes that I had no idea, and I'm like, oh, I don't have enough time. And so I think, yeah, I think just like, and it's hard because there's so much and it's kind of drinking from a fire hose at the beginning, but just keep your mind open, because I have loved SBS, but I've also loved some of these management classes I've taken recently or the global health classes. And so I guess that's not really what I wish I'd known, but I guess I wish I'd come in a little more like, I don't know. I think I was like, oh, I'll find my way, which you do, but I didn't think too much about what I wanted out of the program. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just like thinking a bit more about how do I want to strategize going into a program that's pretty fast, even if you're in the 1.5 year track. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a short program, I will say. Like I feel like now that we're towards the end of it, I'm looking back like, oh wow, I should have done this. I should have reached out to this professor, but it's like not over yet. I still have some time and they're still like super um like open and available. But going back to that point earlier, we talked about like the whole state school perspective. Like I think I would have liked to have known that people here was like really friendly. There's like no ounce of competition at the school whatsoever. Like people love helping each other and helping each other learn. Um, so it's a great environment. And I wish that I walked into the school knowing that and not necessarily have to be afraid, or I wasn't necessarily afraid, but like I think I was just like a little shy. Yeah, everyone's awesome. But yeah, I think we're gonna drop our emails in the chat as well. I know we're at time. So if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. I know a lot of you had great questions we couldn't get to, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
feel free to reach out to us, and then any questions about specific tracks or like specific admissions. And I know someone had asked about like they're deciding. I would reach out to admissions and they can connect you with students in those tracks. So then you could really talk to people with that experience. So we can definitely answer student related questions and get you to the admissions, but they will also be a great resource and can get you to the right office as needed.
yep.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I seconding Kendra, admissions office is a great resource for any logistics. And if there are any just life-oriented things, culture, school, all of that, we're happy to answer anything that we couldn't get to today. But thank you guys so much. And thank you for all the great questions too.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
with-
All right. Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.